The narcissistic personality. Is it a disorder or just bad behavior? Narcissism is a word we hear a lot these days. It gets tossed around to describe selfish partners, arrogant celebrities, or that coworker who talks about themselves nonstop. But what lies beneath this label? Is narcissism just a collection of unpleasant traits, or can it be classified as a mental disorder? Understanding the narcissistic personality starts with recognizing that there's a spectrum. On one end, there are people who simply have inflated egos. On the other, there are individuals who meet the clinical criteria for narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. The difference is not always obvious. A person can behave in narcissistic ways without having NPD. So, where do we draw the line? Let's begin by examining the characteristics commonly associated with narcissism. These include grandiosity, a lack of empathy, entitlement, a need for admiration, and manipulative behavior. Someone with narcissistic tendencies may dominate conversations, name drop to impress others, and react with rage or contempt when criticized. However, not everyone who does these things is disordered. In fact, some level of self-importance is normal and even healthy in certain situations. Narcissistic personality disorder, on the other hand, is a diagnosable mental health condition outlined in the DSM-5, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. According to the DSM-5, NPD involves a pervasive pattern of grandiosity in fantasy or behavior, a constant need for admiration, and a lack of empathy beginning in early adulthood. People with NPD often have a fragile self-esteem that hides behind a facade of superiority. They may feel devastated by criticism, even if they don't show it. This vulnerability can make them highly defensive, easily angered, or prone to gaslighting others in an attempt to maintain control and avoid shame. It's this emotional volatility, combined with the impact on interpersonal relationships, that distinguishes NPD from simply being arrogant or difficult. So, is narcissism always pathological? Not necessarily. Cultural factors play a role. In some environments, being assertive or self-promoting is encouraged, and sometimes mistaken for narcissism. Moreover, we all exhibit narcissistic traits from time to time. Who hasn't felt special or craved praise on occasion? The key difference is frequency, intensity, and whether the behavior causes significant distress or impairs relationships. Chronic narcissism creates chaos. It erodes trust, silences others, and fosters unhealthy power dynamics. People with NPD may struggle to maintain close, honest relationships because they view others as tools or threats rather than equals. That said, diagnosing NPD requires professional evaluation. It's not enough to point to bad behavior and slap on a label. Unfortunately, pop psychology and social media often oversimplify the concept. They turn narcissism into a trendy insult. This stigmatization can be harmful. It may discourage those struggling with NPD from seeking help. It may also prevent others from understanding the true nature of the disorder. Another layer of complexity is that narcissism can coexist with other mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, or borderline personality disorder. This overlap can make diagnosis and treatment more challenging. What appears to be narcissism might be a defense mechanism for trauma or deep insecurity. For example, someone with a narcissistic persona might actually be protecting themselves from feelings of abandonment or worthlessness. Understanding these roots is essential for empathy and effective intervention. Not all narcissistic behavior stems from malice, it may stem from pain. But, make no mistake, the consequences of unchecked narcissism can be deeply damaging. Victims of narcissistic abuse often experience confusion, self-doubt, and trauma. They may question their own reality after prolonged gaslighting or emotional manipulation. This is why setting boundaries with narcissistic individuals is so important. Whether or not they have NPD, protecting your emotional well-being must come first. Can narcissists change? That depends. Some can grow with therapy, especially those who recognize their patterns and want to improve. However, many lack the insight or motivation to change, particularly if they feel superior to others or see no problem with their actions. Therapists often use approaches like schema therapy or dialectical behavior therapy to help narcissistic clients build awareness, empathy, and emotional regulation. But it's a long process. Healing from narcissistic behavior, whether you're the narcissist or the person affected by one, requires time, support, and honesty. It also requires breaking the myth that narcissism is all about vanity or confidence. At its core, pathological narcissism is often about emptiness and shame. That inner void drives the external performance. It's not so much confidence as it is a craving to be seen, admired, and validated at all costs. When people see narcissists only as villains, they miss the deeper psychological story. And when narcissists refuse to reflect, they rob themselves of the chance to heal. So, what should you take away from this? Not all narcissists are disordered, but all narcissistic behavior affects relationships. Understanding the difference between a personality trait and a mental illness can empower you to respond wisely. Don't ignore red flags, but don't rush to judge either. Approach narcissism with curiosity, caution, and compassion. If you're in a relationship with someone you believe may have NPD, seek guidance from a licensed therapist. Education and boundaries can help you protect yourself while maintaining clarity. And if you recognize narcissistic patterns in yourself, don't panic. Self-awareness is the first step to transformation. At the end of the day, narcissism is more than bad behavior, but it's also more than a diagnosis. It's a human challenge rooted in identity, emotion, and connection. If you found this breakdown helpful, give this video a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more content on psychology, relationships, and emotional health.